What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the 2024 Dallas Cowboys. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. You guys know how to use YouTube. It's super exciting, I'm just stoked for the season to begin. So let's get this on. This is going to be a three-part episode, all in one. It is going to be a draft class breakdown, roster breakdown, and a records prediction. So let's get right into this, starting out with the draft class. You got Tyler Guyton. Love that pick. My only concern was, can he switch to left tackle? We've kind of been answered that. Yes. He still has his little slip-ups here and there, but he's looked far more progressed than I even thought he would. Marshawn Kneeland, friend of the show. He came on the show in the offseason, so feel free to check that out. We stayed in touch, so that's pretty damn awesome. Really good dude. Great pick up there in the second round, especially in retrospect now that Sam Williams not in there. Cooper Beebe, freaking love it. You know, you have Hoffman there for a year, and Hoffman's a good player. We'll get into him in a second, but I think Cooper Beebe's going to be a stud at center. I really do. Maurice Lufau, I wasn't super stoked about it. It's just really, really early. I had much better linebackers than him. So, it is what it is. But Keelan Carson, he was right there as my second favorite pick. Probably should have put him above Cooper Beebe, but Cooper is fantastic. So, both of them fantastic. Keelan Carson was a top 40 or 50 player. I think he might have been 40 on my board. And, you'll see, because of Pup, he is starting. But Ryan Flournoy, another player I really, really liked there in the Senior Bowl. Liked him and Jamari Thrash more and more as the offseason went on. Nathan Thomas, I like the Raging Cajuns getting good developmental offensive line there. And then Justin Rogers, defensive line depth. So, looking at it right now, I don't think even Justin's not even on the team. Looking at Nathan Thomas, I'm also kind of just looking straight up at the actual depth chart. Looking at the practice squad as well, I don't see him on there. So RIP to that. So yeah, Justin Rogers does not appear to be on roster. And then looking at, Nathan Thomas, is he even here? I don't see him. So it kind of sucks, but still, somebody who you could try to bring back in time. So continuing on, of course, I am probably part of the practice squad cut off on the side of my screen. So if he is on there, that's awesome, but don't see it. But offense, let's get into this. Starting out with the quarterback, we're going to go skill position to line, then line to skill position for the defense. Dak Prescott, it's going to be weird having to pay him because it's just like you just paid CD. You got obviously the big one in Micah as well. Like there's just a lot of guys that you got to pay. So we'll see what happens there. I think you'll make it happen. Teams just find a way with the cap, but he's been somebody there for a while. Really, really good quarterback. Ezekiel Elliott, you could also mention in that running back core because there are some people who are mentioning the fact that Rico Dowdle might be the starter, TBD. But you got Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, one of my favorite players of all time. I love Deuce. Ezekiel Elliott as well as Dalvin Cook on the practice squad. So, there's certainly something to mention there with those guys. It's probably of the lower tier in the NFL, but at the same time, still adequate. Still adequate for sure. Looking at the receiving crew, because Hunter Lepke, I just don't really have much to say about fullbacks. Ferguson, honestly, quite a solid tight end. Looking at what's behind Ferguson, Schoonmaker, former second-round pick, and then Brevin Spann-Ford making the roster is very interesting. I liked him a lot there out of Minnesota, and I just thought he had a pretty mediocre offseason. So I'm glad that he's been able to rebound and, stick to the 53. But it is certainly a position that after Jake Ferguson, I do think is lacking. I was not a big fan of Luke Schoonmaker, and I liked AJ Barner. I like Colson Loveland. So Schoonmaker, as a second round pick was just a little bit early for me. It was one of my least favorite picks. But looking at the receiving core, Jalen Tolbert, I like Jalen Tolbert, but it's just, we're talking about number 2 receivers because Brandon Cooks, he's also not the youngest fish in the pond. And also, even we're talking about Brandon Cooks as well. We're not talking about top tier wide receiver 2s. CeeDee Lamb obviously is an absolute stud, deserving every penny that he just got. So that's awesome. But there's certainly some concerns there in that receiving core. Offensive line wise, Guyton, I'm excited for him. I think he will have some growing pains, but he's been far more along than I expected, which is a big plus. Tyler Smith, one of my favorite draft guys. He was somebody who I said would be an all-pro as a guard, and I think he definitely, if he hasn't already, will be there. Hoffman, good job bringing him in. He had his best year last year, but I do have some concerns at the fact that the 4 years before that were not so great. But Cooper Beebe, I think, will be ascending into that great position. Zach Martin as well, up for a contract. That's a lot of guys you got to pay, but technically Cooper Beebe could be there as well. Actually, as of today, it says Cooper Beebe is the starter, but I don't think that's going to be the case. So right now, TBD, like those two are flip-flopping. We'll see what happens there. I do want to bring that up for sure. But regardless of that fact, you got Terrence Steele there at right tackle. So we'll see what happens between that center position, because Hoffman is a former starting center. He is on a 1-year contract. Cooper Beebe, if he beats him out, which I think he should eventually, that's sick. But I'm going to be more conservative at the moment. Now we're going to talk about the defense here. Not many actual weaknesses, right? So looking at the D-line, DeMarcus Lawrence, he's just getting a little bit older, up for a contract. There's certainly going to be some motive for some extra help into that edge core. Micah Parsons wanting a new contract as well. Osa Odigizua, he's a talented defensive interior guy. Maybe not like the best of the best, but he's still very, very solid. I really liked him there at UCLA. But also up for a contract, Mozzie Smith. Wasn't super duper productive last year, but he's back to his actual playing weight, so that's good. We'll see if he ends up rebounding. Eric Kendricks, love the fact that y'all brought him in. He's a really, really solid linebacker, and hopefully Maurice Lufau can end up learning some things and taking a step up. Statistically, in the preseason, it's not like Lufau did too well, but at the same time, it's just so limited. Linebacker is so hard to transition to the NFL. Damone Clark, actually very underrated. I really appreciate his game. DeMarvion Overshone, shout out to him as well, coming back off injury. Safety-wise, Wilson, he's not bad. He's obviously been super reliable there for a long time. Malik Hooker, I think he had one of his better years last year as well. So as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be great. Jordan Lewis in the slot, not a bad player by any means, up for a contract as well, so he has more motive to do well, especially on a team where money's pretty scarce. But Trevon Diggs, fantastic corner, especially like when healthy. He's just someone who might end up letting up some big plays, but at the end of the day, he ends up making more plays than I think he gives up, especially in terms of the overall impact on the game. And Kalen Carson, already mentioned him earlier, one of my favorite corners from last year's draft class. I thought he did a good job when I watched him game 1 in the preseason, and then he's now on the starting squad because of the physically unable to play list there for Deron Bland. But we'll see Deron coming back soon enough. But I want to mention Andrew Booth as well, because Andrew Booth did actually a really good job in the preseason. Shout out to him for being able to actually make the roster as well. That's a super huge win for someone who's had some struggles. Like, to me, he was like a late 2nd round pick, and he didn't even live up to that there in Minnesota, so I'm glad that he's doing better now. But that's going to be that. Let's get right into the records prediction. And jumping in, we already have a record of 6-3 because this is cumulative. Now, there's certainly some things that we could be correcting, but at the same time, I want to try to be as respectful to what has already happened as possible. But of course, I'm always willing to change a game or two here and there if I do think so. So at week number 1, the Cowboys go all the way to Cleveland. It's going to be a tough game. I mean, you're talking about a baptism by fire for Tyler Guyton going up against Myles Garrett there. I do think this is a game that the Browns could potentially win. They have the defense for it. They also have the offensive firepower for it as well. And especially if Jedrick Wills gets that contract, there's even more incentive right now for him to do better than ever. So certainly something that I'd be a bit concerned with an early loss. But I do think that I just don't trust Deshaun Watson. I just don't. I'm not a big truster in Deshaun, so I'm going to be giving this game to the Cowboys. Ravens coming to town. Ravens are a damn good team. Could be the leader in the AFC. But I do think I'll be giving the Cowboys this game because it's at home. I think that's like the big kicker is that it's at home. You then face the Giants. So it's a pretty early stretch, by the way. Saints, I don't think, are a very good team. The Giants, they're still working. They're still developing. But, bright lights are on. I don't trust Daniel Jones to be home. For the Steelers. So what are the Steelers at? They're at 9-8. I don't think Tomlin's going to allow this one. I also say the Steelers, Tomlin will sell his left nut to be above 500. So I'm not going to be pushing him below 500. That might sound stupid, but at the end of the day, I also think the Steelers are a very gritty team. You could lose technically to all 3 AFC North teams, but I'm actually giving you guys a little bit of leniency. The Lions coming off a bye week, extra prepared, still in Dome. I think they're a very talented team. Good competition there. The Cowboys coming off a bye week for the Niners. I don't know many teams that can beat the Niners. I'll be giving you guys the luck of the draw on that. But I'm doing it because of that extra bye week. I think you'll have a little bit of extra momentum into that week. But coming off that victory, I do think the Falcons are a really dominant team that are very tough to take down. I'm going to be giving that one to the Falcons. I'll actually have you be splitting with the Eagles because I just think that it's too close of a competition to have you guys have one team sweeping the other. But Philly coming into town, I think Dallas will take the first one on that, giving Philly momentum for the playoffs. Then we have the Texans coming into town. That's a really good game. Really good game. Battle for Texas. And the Texans are the team to beat. They are. And the bright lights are on. The question is Dak going to show up or is CJ? CJ very well might show up for this game, but I'm actually going to give this one to the Cowboys. Having you guys pretty much sweep the Commanders, it's certainly a game I could see basically going to the Commanders, giving them an extra win, but the Commanders just have lost so much firepower. Like they're just kind of a shell of the team that I thought they were. Then you end up beating the Giants, so sweeping both teams in your division. The Bengals are a team I am concerned about, but T. Higgins right now could be traded by the deadline, so I would be a little bit concerned about that. I'll be giving the Cowboys a win there. Buccaneers, I think that's fair to let you guys have the victory on that one. And then the Commanders having you guys switch up. So at the moment, you're 12-5. I think that's pretty fair. The Dallas Cowboys are always super duper competitive. A game I would potentially switch is here with the Niners. I certainly believe that the Niners are the superior team. And it is a game, but I mean, RNG's a thing. RNG's a thing. I cannot give the Niners every victory that I can. Otherwise, I really want to. But technically, the Commanders, I don't think there'll always be a split there. I also do believe that the Ravens could easily beat you guys if they wanted to. But you guys have a really good team, especially early on. So I'm going to leave it as is. When we do the Ravens and such, like if I do the Ravens and such, it's a little bit late. It's my fault. But I wanted to get this one out because I love Dallas. And I live here. So I want to be able to get you guys this content. But let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Love y'all. See you on the far side. Peace.